Hi, you're watching the QC. This is Luke Goss, and this is one of my favorite places to check out all things movie. Check it out. This is the QC.
Hey friends, welcome back to the QC. Now I know the phrase special guest starts to lose its meaning when you overuse it, but there's no other way to describe it. We've got a special guest on the channel today. Luke Goss. This guy, as far as genre films go and genre film performances, his role in Blade 2 and Hellboy 2 universally praised, and really elevated those films. So it's a really special treat to have him on the QC. So please enjoy, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and yeah. Here we go.
My brother.
Hey, Luke. How are you?
Sorry to keep you waiting there. I'm sorry I was on a call.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So great to have you as a guest.
Honored to be here, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good.
Is that the way I pronounce it?
That's correct. Yep, Swanka.
Is it indigenous to Africa? What is it?
It is.
All right, I thought it sounds like that. Yeah.
Yep. So my parents are actually immigrants from Liberia, West Africa.
Oh, wonderful. I've been there a few times. Not West Africa, but I had a friend of mine who was raised there, actually. He was a London lad, but raised there. And I've been to South Africa a few times. But I thought it was a cool name too. I mean, with what you do, if you have a character and it was standing there looking in some total fanboy outfit and it was called Swanka, you'd be like, he would have to be warrior-ish, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I guess so. That's pretty funny. Yeah. So right on. Yeah. So thank you again. We're a huge fan of your work.
To be honest with you, it's when you reached out so kindly and said the wonderful things you did about my efforts. I think it's really just a chance to. I haven't had a lot of opportunities. When you want to speak about these things and say thanks to the fans for, not of me, but of characters. And I have a career and I have an opportunity. I've got to turn some music down. Actually, let me just do this. Saving those copyright laws. But it's really a chance to answer some questions that you may have. Also say thank you, to clear up whatever, the death race issues or this or that. But really in a pandemic, just to say, here we are all together, aren't we? Having a moment to say thank you and share a moment. There's nothing, if things come up that I'm doing, we talk about, but I'm just happy to be here, mate.
Great. No, I really appreciate that. So great. All right. Well, then I'll just kind of jump into the questions that that I was interested in and what I think my audience will want to know as well. So, I think most people know, but for those that don't know, Luke has really started his career off really as a musician, a very successful musician, right? Is that correct?
We did well. We were 13 hits. It's still going. Arenas, stadiums. It was, and we reformed in 2017. Played a couple of nights at London's O2, 25,000 people per night. Still going. New album coming. My own solo music. So, music is it's definitely in the blood. That's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So Luke's being humble, but yeah, absolutely, very, very successful musician, and very interesting to make that transition from being someone who's doing music to starring in really blockbuster films. So can you tell us about how that transition happened?
Yeah, I started actually in theatre. Strangely enough, I think, and this is a good thing to think about in these times where we don't know what sits within us. We don't know what tomorrow is. I love that expression, 3 feet from gold. You've got the pickaxe. One guy's walking away, and the other guy's like, I'm just going to keep digging until I find it, because he's following his heart and his gut, and he's letting this guy take a break. And so for me, I found through hardship, when I left the band, I was in a not a particularly favorable deal. Lost millions and millions and millions and millions through that. It took a long time. It was like cleaning up a big mess with a spoon, but I got it done. Found theatre on that journey, and in the West End of London, playing Danny Zuko in Greece for 2.5 years. Robert Stigwood, the producer of the movie, was also the producer of the world official production, which I was Zuko in, it really got into my blood. And then I did this method movie called 2 Days, 9 Lives, which is a British movie, very method driven, about rehab and harrowing. And then in the evenings, I would go and do the show in theatre. I gathered some money from all of, within the band. It was extremely successful and very lucrative. Then there was nothing. So I had some to keep my family safe. I decided to come to Los Angeles and audition. But the weight of my music career carried, they tell us about you. And you could tell they wanted your autobiography in 10 seconds. Get on with it and get out my room. Not a particularly polite process here in Los Angeles, but 2 years of auditions, zigzag with David Goyer, the writer. Anyone out there, certainly in your site, will
very familiar with David Goyer.
Yeah. I didn't know the magnitude of the meeting, I guess. I was like, wow, what a great writer. And I was driving home and I remember the call from my agent saying, what did you do in the room? I went, dude, nothing, man. I just did what, he said, you got the role. I said, what? So David Goyer had called Guillermo, the blessed, talented Guillermo. And
we love Guillermo here. Yep.
Yeah, we do. And so he said, look, we might have found our Nomak here. And I got the script. I went in. The very first time the director said your mind to the beautiful casting director, she was very sweet. I said, can you give us a minute? An hour later we spoke and he said, this is going to be a long walk, but for me, I think we're good. And I didn't really know. I mean, who's going to suddenly know that the director, Del Toro, is saying to you, he thinks he might have found his dude. 10 weeks later of agony, I got it. And then my journey in film began from there.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was the wonderful steps of the unknown. And as and then, like in this pandemic, I've started painting or whatever. It's like, you never really know. It's about trying to put that foot in front of each other. When you feel something within you, you probably had that, I'm guessing, presumptuously within what you do. You have to walk through those doubts, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I honestly launched the QC initially because, I have some talent for writing, and that's really what the focus was, on the website, which is writing. And then I just kind of discovered that, there's some demand for video content, and then I started editing video and learning about that. And then, my skill for that kind of went from zero to being, okay. And that's something that I've discovered that I really enjoy is the video editing piece. So to your point, it's just it's trying to figure things out and discovering what your talents might lie and, trying to explore those things.
What speaks to this, because once you get up in the morning with this involved, your heart, you're not dragging yourself in the morning, are you? Like, okay, this is
exactly.
Wow. Yeah, a man that loves his job never works a day. So I do believe in that.
Exactly.
Blessed position to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So not to downplay your very respectable catalog both in television and movies, but the roles that really brought you to my attention and to, I imagine, a lot of my audience, of course, were your role as Nomak and as Prince Nuada in Blade 2 and Hellboy 2 and the Hellboy 2. And it's one of those things where I remember watching those for the first time, both movies, and you're playing 1000% villainous character, not someone that you're supposed to root for, but you imbued those characters with a type of pathos and humanity where you almost find yourself rooting for those characters. And, I remember being like kind of sad when Nomak passed away at the end because, obviously he's not a good dude, but, he had a rough life and he had some bad things happen to him. So, I just really, go ahead.
So no, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was enjoying it because the thing is, it's not an egotistical thing. It's like so much work went into the facets of him to see if someone would understand him clearly as you do. And it's, the reason why I went like this is because, when he says strange, it hurts no more. So the reason I played it that way, and I have to say I played it that way, Guillermo allowed me to have many conversations. Our 20-minute meetings would turn into 2-hour meetings in the trailer and everyone would be rolling their eyes like Luke and Guillermo, they're blah, 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 It's just important, but because there was an opportunity to say, is he a bad guy or is he the recipient of where he's been treated? Say, for example, you get a man who's been trained by his father, he was trained by his grandfather about racism or abuse or alcoholism or making right things that we all know are wrong. Is the recipient of that teaching at fault, or is he a victim or is she a victim of it? I think they're a victim of it. So for me, in the philosophical thinking person I am, I'm thinking Nomak must show himself to be who he could have been, like Frankenstein, if there had been more acceptance of him. He did not ask for the existence. And I remember speaking to Guillermo about, I will not eat or feed when the Reapers are around. It would make me furious because I'm as disgusted by them as you are. I can't even believe that these are the post results of me. So is the enemy of my enemy my friend or my enemy? It's not some random Shakespearean reference that might sound like, it shows his intellect, but also those few minutes before he passes, he's thinking, wow, to be relieved of this in a minute, to have the peace of that brings a moment that was delivered, not like Nomak here. It was a moment where he was a man for just a few moments before he meets his maker. So there's so many more facets in that moment that people would even believe. But for sure, that was what the crazy noise, what was in my mind in that moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always say, Blade 2 is a great film. I think your performance elevated it, absolutely. And, whenever I go back to that film, it's really Nomak is the character that really, for me, stands out. And I think for a lot of people, for a lot of the reasons that you described.
Hard
So
coming out of that guy. So hard coming out of him. I remember that was my first full. Uh, Even thinking about it, I get palpitation feeling. I remember I was in a restaurant, and I, a young buck, big role, 9, 10 weeks of physical preparation and mental preparation, sitting in a restaurant thinking all things were good. Every noise, every clang, everything. And I said to my wife, my ex-wife now, my blessed dear friend, but my wife at the time, I said, I think I'm having a result of doing what I do. I think I'm gonna have to leave here soon. Maybe just have some food at home. 2 or 3 weeks later, it was all fine. But yeah, characters like that get well and truly into your system.
absolutely.
Mm.
So, having worked with Guillermo Del Toro on both Blade 2 and Hellboy 2, we have I and my audience have a tremendous amount of respect for, obviously, for your work, but also Guillermo Del Toro as a director.
Thank
And,
you.
he's just a brilliant, filmmaker
Yeah.
and just visionary type, from a cinematography standpoint and just the fantasy elements that he creates is just amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working with him and what that was like?
Everything I say about any of people I work with, I always say this is my perspective, so I don't say it's correct or anything. One thing I observe of him, which I think makes him so powerful, is he's unapologetic, and no, I think, and why would he need to be, but of his wonderment and his childlike. I'm very childlike as well. I get very excited by things. I get a pair of new Converse or a pair of Vans. I'm like, man, I'm whoa. It doesn't have to have big fancy labels with it for me to be digging things. But he's sketching and he's alive. I think I would imagine he's found himself in a playground that only any director would wish he would be in. But his wonderment makes him powerful. But also he knows what he wants. And I think any good director, any good painter, any good artist of any kind, any creative, any human that has a sense of what they want is going to be it's going to be a forward-moving momentum that you can either latch onto and stay with. What he does expect is, which is both keeps you on your toes and it feels exciting. It's like, I don't know, the first dive I did in as a scuba diver, and you're going deep, and your heart is pounding. He wants your A game, always. Rightfully so, if one finds himself to be in that privileged position on a set like that, Christopher Nolan, a Ridley Scott, a Guillermo del Toro, whatever. There's so many. Wes Anderson. I can keep going. Then pay attention. Be conscious. Surrender yourself. And I think what film does do, sometimes more than I see in TV. Sometimes, I mean, certainly episodic TV. I'm not in the beautiful TV that's filmic and not judgmentally said either. But film gives you the time to sacrifice yourself a little bit more. It gives you the time to think, here we go. There's going to be more recovery needed. It's an experience that you do walk away from. You do leave. It's not an ongoing thing normally, unless it's a sequel or something. But even then, you give a piece of yourself. You surrender a part of your wellness for it, and that's what Guillermo does. He gives you reason to do so, and that's what makes him powerful.
That's great. That's great. So, can you tell us what some of the projects might have coming up, or any plans to collaborate with Guillermo del Toro again? That's a question that my audience actually had asked me coming into this interview. So,
yeah, I mean, they must know, and I'm sure they understand. It's not I'm not in the position to know. I mean, I think he has choices of actors that work really, really, really well with him, and others that have yet to understand his language from my observations of filmmaking myself. I would love to be in a position to work with him again, but I want to say I'm not retiring from film, but I kind of am taking a big pause from the quantity of films because, and I'm going to be honest, within remuneration means I can give time. And there's a lot of people calling me say, hey man, family and friend rate. And I'm like, I want to, but I've also got music, I've got writing, I've got painting. So now I want to do those movies that, frankly, you being specifically mentioned right now have supported what I do through. And I don't always do movies because I think, oh, this is the exact movie I want to do. There's very few actors out there right now that have the choice to say, I think I'll do this one.
right.
I love to act. I can pick up one of the guitars that are over there now and play. I can't act without a set. So sometimes I read it and I think this could be great if the people trying to bring this to fruition also care. And sometimes you find yourself on sets where that's not the case. So I've realized that I've got to have a big deep breath and be a brave boy and say, do the right movies from now on. And I'll be honest, if it didn't come up for 3, 4, 5, 10 years or ever, I wouldn't act again. But I'm going to wait for roles that really, really speak to me. And it's hard because I love acting. So it's like resisting the temptation to go do what you love, but knowing if you do it too much, you might end up not having a career to go do it with. So to be honest with you, I would love to work with Guillermo or any director that is a passionate filmmaker that wants a passionate actor on board. But that may be tomorrow. But as it stands right now, I don't have. There's a film I'm looking at producing with a friend of mine that shoots in Portugal. It's like a sexy beast kind of movie.
Okay.
But then again, I must ask, like, the big why. Like, it doesn't need it, being entertaining could be enough of a reason, but I still need to. I just want to explore the reasons why more than I have in a long time to get back to that beautiful idea of doing quality or nothing. So it's a terrifying idea because I love to act, but I think that's where I stand right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, I appreciate and I respect, your position of, really doing the roles that speak to you and, really being thoughtful about what it is that you're doing. And, if music is what is driving you, then,
No, film too. Film
yeah.
is, but I'll be honest with you. I'm being candid. No names mentioned. I have experienced filmmakers doing the churn out, trying to get things done. And I work with people I love working with, like Christian Sessma, great guy, great filmmaker. And I think once he's got the budget to play with, he's going to be a really, really, really wonderful, wonderful filmmaker that everyone will know. And many do now, and I'm sure, but not him included, not many friends of mine. But I just, film is not any less important to me. It's in fact more important to me. So I think I have to wait for, because music, you can set your own standard right there and then on the guitar. That's good, bad, or people love it, whatever. It's subjective, isn't it? But film is a little different. You need to know that the gang and the crew that are coming together, that little crazy circus for that month or more, needs to really care, or I'd rather stay away.
Gotcha. Okay. So could I ask you, is there, as far as, your consumption of entertainment, are there any shows right now that you're watching that you can't get enough of that you would share with us? Or movies that you watched recently?
Ones recently, Messiah was one I thought was remarkable. It's been and gone, I know. I thought The King was just fantastic. Did you see that on Netflix, I think?
I missed that one.
Yeah, The King. I'm an actor, and people want to see portrayal of things that people mean when they say it. I would watch that. It was a really good piece of history. And but I'm a big fan of nonfiction, if I'm honest with you, because I'm writing handpan songs or guitar songs or painting or writing. I've promoted a couple of movies. Paydirt was out recently, which I was proud of. It was a fun movie we produced with Christian and I. But no, I mean, I'm watching a lot of nonfiction or documentaries. I'm fascinated by Tesla. I'm fascinated about quantum physics. I'm fascinated about spirits, Bigfoot, UFOs. Everything that gets like, oh, whatever, I'm into. I'm like, yeah, give me some of that. Like, I'm curious. I want to know about what's going on in the world we live in, outside of the minutiae of politics and problems and people. Like, look at us. We're not at each other's throats. I think there has to be exploration of things that celebrate the people, that many of us that just simply can't join in, not because we don't care, but because we don't want to, and also to be in ourselves ambassadors of peace by the fact we're sitting together in peace. So my TV consumption is all the exploration of nonfiction, really, mainly. And I watch a lot of movies. Like, I watch probably one movie a night. And I really, really enjoy looking for those kind of quirky films, or those ones that make you cry, or revisits to the old classics. Film's a big part of my day. One film a day I watch. So.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, listen, we really appreciate, having you on the QC and getting a chance to learn more about your experience working, on films you've worked on, the music that you're working on now, and just everything you're doing. It's been a pleasure, and, we're really grateful, and, hopefully we can maybe have you on again if you're promoting a movie in the future or something like that. So
let's do it regularly. Listen, it's not complicated. Hanging out with nice people is always a pleasure, and being supported. And I've made some good ones. I've made some not so good ones. So for hanging in there, thanks, guys. Really, thanks for the support. I really appreciate it. But I'm a working actor, so I do what I got to do, and I find the best ones when I can, and I appreciate the support along the way. Much love. There is a script that I have been working on with a bunch of people and a great writer. I won't say much more, but the most extensive, faceted, beautiful, period piece, almost noir script that would be in keeping with his story, and just gloriously kept within the realities of Archangel Michael and the mythology of the elven people, and it's just glorious. So the script is there. So once, if I reach a point where somebody wants to bring it to fruition, I'd only make it if Del Toro wanted to, or it would sit and gather dust. I'd rather not make it, but it does exist, and it has been worked on by me and my team, myself and the team have been fine-tuning it. It's a glorious script, pretty beautiful.
Sure. No, that's exciting. Yeah, no, I look forward to seeing that. So yeah,
maybe I'll send it to you at some point. You can have a private read. You can give me your thoughts on it.
I'd be happy to. Yeah.